First tonight, our main story in the program is the agreement between Hamas and Israel on the first phase of a peace deal. What could it mean for both Israelis and Gazans, and how much has it raised hopes of an end to 2 years of war? The breakthrough was announced by President Trump, who's been the driving force behind negotiations in Egypt. Speaking to Fox News, Mr. Trump called it a great day for the world. He said all Israeli hostages would be freed on Monday in return for the release of Palestinian prisoners and more aid entering Gaza. And Israel is set to withdraw from parts of Gaza. Mr. Trump also expanded on the future governance of Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the agreement a victory for Israel. He's convening his cabinet today to approve it. He telephoned Mr. Trump to thank him for his leadership and to invite him to address the Israeli parliament. Hamas has also welcomed the deal, saying it stipulated an end to the war. Social media has been awash with people celebrating in Gaza, and in Israel, people have been dancing and also celebrating, with many gathering in Hostage Square, which has become the symbol of the ordeal of the families of the hostages who remain in captivity. Correspondents say this is an extremely significant moment, but it is just the beginning of the end.
President Trump, you have the best crowd in the world. What do you guys have to say to President Trump?
Thank you. You did it!
Wow. You did it!
Wow.
Thank you!
This is amazing. Mr. President, we believe in you. We know you've done so much for us over the past, since you became a president, and even before that. And we trust you fulfill the mission until every hostage, every 48 of the hostages are home. Thank you so much. Blessed be the peacemakers.
God bless you, Mr. President. God bless America.
Thank you very much. You just take care of yourselves. The hostages will come back. They're all coming back on Monday.
President Trump, you have the best crowd in the world. What do you guys have to say to President?
We want to return to our homes, and God willing, things will go well for all the people of Gaza. God willing, everything will be well. We will return home. Celebrating with all elation, it's an indescribable joy. The first step I hope for is that each of these children gets their rights to education and health care, and that they live in safe homes. We are exhausted. We were exhausted during the entire duration of the war. The children were deprived of basic necessities. Instead of sitting at school desks, they have been working to carry water and aid. We have suffered a lot. Honestly, today is not an ordinary day at all. We woke up to the news of ceasefire. Why and what happened? We had no idea. News was confusing and things were unclear. Due to the lack of electricity and internet, we came here to the coffee shop to watch and listen to the news and wait impatiently. It's a relief after 2 whole years. This is what we've been waiting for.
There are no means. Not every home has internet. People are intense, so the situation is very difficult. That's why they come to places like coffee shops to watch the news and follow the latest developments. Since the early morning, we tried to be present to receive people so they can follow the news channels covering the deal. We are hoping to contribute to making people feel happy and reassured.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by the author and international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Good to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. So quite an extraordinary set of first steps, the release of the living hostages, not piecemeal, but all at a time, some form of accounting for the deceased, a ceasefire that depends absolutely on the hostage release, and then the reintroduction of humanitarian aid at scale through classic international means. I mean, that's quite an exceptional set of first steps. How has all this been possible?
One person, President Donald Trump. His plan, at least parts of it, have been accepted by both sides, and therefore this is a good start to hopefully finding a long-term peace solution. But it is an excellent, very important first step. a lot of good news for many people. And let us hope that the negotiations can now build on this.
But now they've got to move on to the more sort of difficult, problematic issues of Hamas disarmament, a transitional administration, stabilization in Gaza, a possible Arab force presence, and ultimately reconstruction. I mean, do you see this first step as something that is likely in the medium to long term to lead to that greater goal of peace, or is it possible that we just halt at this first step? Because of course this is the Middle East, where disappointment always lurks behind every positive development.
Yes, it really does depend on a lot of factors. After this first step, please remember hostages were released before, and then we ended up in a war. And likewise, this time, after this first step, let us hope the negotiations continue. Let us hope no further war breaks out. And let us hope that these negotiations will be fruitful. But there are many hopes in this. Please let us remember that Hamas has not actually agreed to disarm and see some role for itself in the future government. Please also note that the plan, if you like, of removing Hamas entirely, which was the plan especially of the Israeli far right, to that extent still remains in air. And also the idea of a second state there, a Palestinian state, still has not been approved by Netanyahu, let alone his far right-wing allies. So there is a long way to go, but an excellent first step. Let us rejoice in that today.
Just to keep in mind that Hamas actually have accepted the deal in principle, although in their statements they did not specifically mention their disarmament. But President Trump has been, as you yourself pointed out, understandably keen to take credit for what is a major breakthrough. But I wonder if you could discuss with us a little bit of your thoughts on some of the other players in the room. I mean, the Qataris, the Egyptians, the Turks, and so on, because, I mean, they were all critical actors, weren't they, particularly in terms of convincing Hamas to sign up to this deal.
Yes, in terms of getting Hamas to sign, those actual states like Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, as you rightly pointed out, were instrumental. Also, President Donald Trump, I've said about his plan, there's another side to America. Somewhere along the lines, he persuaded Netanyahu also to sign up to this deal, which, if it goes through the Israeli cabinet and the far right does not stop it, would have been a success with him, not just as a peace plan proposer, but as trying to force Israel to negotiations. So therefore, yes, there are the other actors, very important too. I think President Donald Trump getting Netanyahu to apologize meant the Qataris could carry on, which is a very important step, as they appear to be very good negotiators. Moreover, there is the whole aspect of the sheer amount of damage done by Israeli military assault, which obviously also made Hamas more aware of its difficulties. I think that must also be pointed out. Technically, please note, there is no ceasefire in the sense that Israeli military continued its operations. It's only when the Israeli government formally agrees will there be one.
Indeed, we understand the Israelis will retain control of 40% of Gaza. But, I mean, I think you make a very important point when you say that without the unique agency and sort of unprecedented position that President Trump enjoys, the constraining force that he brought to bear and sort of the critical element of Mr. Trump not placing himself in opposition to Prime Minister Netanyahu, this deal could not have happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't myself put it quite like that. President Donald Trump has, by being a friend of Israel, in that sense, I would agree, is on a better wavelength with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. However, there is an element of coercion somewhere in all this from his side insofar as he can coerce, because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made several steps which were unlikely before, and these are indeed thanks to President Donald Trump. He's in the habit of claiming successes working all around the world. I think this is 7th or his 8th he's claiming now. However, here he has genuinely had a very visible success on two fronts: his points and bringing the Israelis to the negotiating table. That he must be congratulated for those.
Absolutely. So what is your sort of anticipation from here on, for instance, on the urgent need for the family of UN agencies and the major international NGOs to flood Gaza with humanitarian assistance and bring an end to the disastrous situation there? I mean, hundreds of trucks of aid a day through multiple points of entry into Gaza?
Yeah, they're not actually fully 100% able to come and go as they please. Israel's made it quite clear it's letting in control the number, but it's far higher than before. It's also the UN this time. And this is two very important aspects. Exactly how much territory Israel will hold, incidentally, there are conflicting accounts on that. I've seen different percentages, but it's quite clear they're not leaving Gaza entirely, which is another aspect. Also, please note, apart from the aid, there's the sheer amount of destruction. How that's going to be rebuilt is also one of the further aspects of this whole peace plan, because unless further negotiations go ahead, then it's hard to see anybody putting money into rebuilding Gaza only for it to be knocked down again. On the other hand, if nothing like this happens, then what? Gaza's supposed to live off aid of hundreds of tons of trucks for the foreseeable future. Here, there is a great deal of work still to be done.
Indeed. Given the scale of this suffering over the last couple of years, Dr. Laskiewicz, I mean, could a deal like this have been done sooner? Or you don't believe it would have been possible to assemble the sort of quite unique combination of influences, including an American president and critical regional actors earlier?
Alas, I'm afraid I think it could have been done earlier. There were hostages releases before. One minor point is that the way Hamas was releasing the hostages before made it a PR success, which the Israelis didn't like. One unfortunately has the notion here that had the two sides been carried on talking, the entire war might possibly have been avoided, because in principle, the change could have been reached by other means. In practical political terms, however, I doubt it. The world being what it is, they did have very different views, and for them to come at all to move is as a result also, please note, of the international pressure on Israel from places, not just Europe, but all around the world. But Europe was quite important in this, which meant that Israel felt more and more isolated. And as a result, I think that also contributed to Israel going to the negotiating table, because there are aspects of the 20 points which Israel does not like, just as there are aspects which Hamas does not like. And so there's a number of factors. So in real terms, I doubt it could have been reached much earlier, but it is a pity. And in principle, it could have been done, yes.
So, I mean, what do you see then as the principal risks over the next few days?
That after the initial euphoria of the hostages having been released and the prisoners, the sheer reality will strike people of what is the next step. If the negotiations do not arrive at a concrete second step, and it should be recalled that we've been here before, initially when the first hostages were released, it was felt to be a first step to further negotiations. Well, we're back at that stage again, with one huge exception. Hamas has no negotiating cards left. So in principle, they're really gambling on the fact that USA will be able to reign in Israel, who in principle will be negotiating with a much weakened enemy on every front. So therefore, there's a lot which can go wrong. We have been at this place before. However, let us hope all the hostages are released and the prisoners, and for that euphoric moment, it is worth waiting for, and the cold, sober analysis of what happens afterwards can wait for a while.
Certainly worth those enthusiastic pictures of people celebrating there, both in Israel and Gaza. Dr. Laskiewicz, thank you ever so much. He is, of course, the author and international analyst. He was talking to me on the line there from London.